Imagine you just graduated college and are now driving for Uber. I'd be pretty frustrated. I'm not getting this high paying career that college promised me, and I'm starting to think if I'm a failure. That's exactly the challenge that today's guest, Bryce Grandison, faced. But instead of just being an Uber driver, he decided to take that leap of faith, applied to Target, and got a store manager position there. Then he got his master's in real estate around Chapman. At Chapman, Bryce is posting all the time on LinkedIn, gaining a huge following, and is now a real estate agent at the most followed real estate company in the world, Sirhan. In today's episode, we get tactical into how Bryce is moving millions of dollars in real estate on LinkedIn, how he's built his personal brand on LinkedIn, and why Bryce is choosing LinkedIn over other platforms. Let's get into it. Welcome to Connection Accepted. Today we have Bryce Grandison on the show. Bryce, welcome.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Excited to be here. Wish that Matt was with us as well, but I definitely know that the storm is going crazy there in New York. But I hope he is well and more taken care of than even being on this podcast with us. So thanks again.
We're happy to have you on. And yes, for the audience, Matt's power is out right now, so he unfortunately couldn't make this one. But Bryce, let's hear about you now. Can you tell us
Yeah,
where you're from and
yeah,
what you're up to right now?
yeah, absolutely. I'm Bryce Grandison here with you. I'm originally from Oakland, California, which is the San Francisco Bay Area, Northern California area. I was born and raised in the Bay Area. Met my wife in the Bay Area. We've been together since the first month of freshman year of high school, which has been awesome. Fast forward a little bit more, we both ended up going to school down in Southern California. Got married just a couple years out of high school, and that was awesome. I played college football down in Southern California as well, which was great. Even more than that, went on to go graduate undergrad, work in the retail space in manager roles, but always had a love and passion for real estate. So ended up going back to school to go get my master's degree in real estate. That then propelled me in a commercial real estate space to go work for a company that had $3 billion of assets under management. And then fast forward and propel myself to kind of go be a sole asset manager for an emerging real estate firm that had about $150 million in multifamily apartment buildings. I did that for some time. I enjoyed what I was doing, but recognized early on that it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do long term as far as kind of sitting behind a desk. I'm a lot more of a people person and wanted to be outside and, buying and selling and interacting and doing business development. And ended up telling my boss that kind of one day, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking through, and here's where I want to kind of go in my career. And he came back just a couple of days later and said, all right, cool, your last day would be in 2 weeks, and fired me. And that was definitely a shell shock. It provided opportunity and space for my wife to and I to come out here and move to the Atlanta, Georgia area, and that's where we've been now since summer of 2024, and been loving it.
Bryce, I want to start with that first job you got out of college because I think a lot of our audience is a little bit younger and thinking about that first job that they're going to get after school or that first job that they're in right now.
Yeah.
I'm curious what led you to that initial real estate role, real estate in general,
Yeah.
and what your thought process was like to get it and then also leave it.
Copy. Yeah, let me back up even more. So I'm gonna go my first job out of undergrad. First of all, so I graduated with a business management degree out of undergrad, and my technical real first job out of undergrad was driving Lyft and Uber. Not pretty, not necessarily the expectation. I'm a part of roughly the generation, and maybe even yourself too, in which we all got told, hey, go to, what I'm saying, go to college, go get your degree, you'll come out with a good job and you'll be set. That wasn't necessarily the case when I graduated, and that was a huge shell shock for me. Granted, I think that there was a combination of things in which I spent a great deal of my time in undergrad playing football. And so summers and other downtime opportunities, I didn't necessarily go put energy into getting internships and those other kind of things in which I wish I would have done, that would have helped me propel into being able to be that much more attractive in the job sphere when I came out of undergrad. But yeah, I was driving Lyft and Uber in, the very following month after I walked across the stage, which was very humbling. But nonetheless, came about then. at a certain point, getting an opportunity and role at Target. I was a manager at Target, in which I was a part of all the different manager roles and experiences. Jumped in at Target in a time in which we were still in the pandemic. Really kind of hit the pandemic off. I jumped into Target in a time in which there was still no toilet paper and paper towels on the shelves, which was crazy time, and had to really smooth things over. But nonetheless, learned a ton through there. Learned how to manage people, manage 40 and 50 people at a time. Learned how to, great deal of customer service experience, and really how to navigate that space. Prior to then figuring out, okay, cool, I wanted to go back to school and go get my master's degree in real estate, where my first love really was. And then that's kind of where, okay, then I kind of took that next role. So I could jump into, hey, during my grad school time, what roles and things that I had there. Is that kind of where you want me to kind of take it, Daniel? Or you want to back up a little bit?
I want to go from Target to grad school because I think it's very easy for a lot of people to just stay with the status quo, whether it's staying at Target, staying in Uber Eats or DoorDash driver. And to make that step, just knowing what programs to apply for or what I want to do is very hard. So run us through that thought process.
Yeah, that's good. For me, I fell in love with real estate back in undergrad. And so I learned the ins and outs of growing wealth through real estate at that time. Ultimately ended up starting to, like, even during undergrad and that kind of thing, start to underwrite my own deals, and was making phone calls to other brokers and agents and that kind of thing, trying to just get more information. Called family and friends, trying to like think about, syndicating a deal and the whole 10. So I feel like I was in the real estate space already, unofficially, I would say, even back in undergrad. But naturally, when you come out of school, you're like, I didn't necessarily know that that could be a career that I just made for myself from the jump. So I went into the route of like, okay, I'll go out and go get a job. And so my time, I spent maybe 3 years or so at Target, but during that time, I was very hungry to find my next role, my next opportunity that can help me honestly make enough money just to invest in real estate. So I was, even in the midst of Target, I was thinking about going back, what I'm saying, and being a CPA, being a financial advisor, being anything else but working at Target, because I just wanted to find a good high paying job that I could then go invest in real estate. And so eventually got to a point in which, there were some long days at Target, just miserable, because there's a complete tension between where I'm at and where I want to be. And I think that there's a place probably for a lot of people, especially young people, coming out of school and this, that, and the other, where you're trying to figure out, or maybe you're in a position that you are like, okay, I got into this position right out of school, but I don't know if I really want this, or this is really what I want to do. And so, I would encourage people to think about, maybe even spend a couple years in the workspace or whatever the case may be, in which you can figure out, is this something that I want to do? Is this the direction that I want to keep going? Or do I want to go back to school? And so, a big kind of, thought process there was, number one, my wife actually started going back to school, getting her master's degree in acting. My wife is an actress, by trade, and she has always been well talented from time in which we were, young and even in high school. And so for her, she inspired me, honestly. She went ahead and she started going back to school. And that's where it kind of clicked for me. That was like, wait a minute, like, I have a love and passion for real estate. Maybe I could go back to school for this and figure out where to go next. And I had the opportunity to look at some different programs, with some that were more like MBA with the emphasis in real estate, but ended up finding a role, or a program at a school called Chapman University, which is down in Orange County, Southern California, in which they had a 1 year fully devoted to real estate master's degree program that I just fell in love with and said, yeah, that's what I want to do. And ended up actually being just 20 minutes away or so from my wife's grad school program where she was at. And it just worked out a beautiful, exchange of events. We were then able to go live on campus at her school, rent out the house that we lived in at our moment in time. And then I was able to go to grad school not too far away from her. So we became landlords, both in grad school at the same time, both really hitting it and what our passions and goals and dreams were. And it was just a beautiful moment in time in life, saying to really kind of find that place where, wow, I felt alive again. I feel energized again. I feel encouraged and inspired because I'm really now focused in devoting my time to something that I really enjoy, which was real estate.
I think a big takeaway for the audience here is that you can always keep going and strive for something. You don't have to let your situation define what you're going to do. And something that's pretty interesting to me is that you went back to school to get your master's because, in a way, the first time you went to college, it kind of failed you. You ended up working for Uber Eats and DoorDash, and then you were a manager at Target, which are both good jobs. And a lot of the audience is, but that's not always the picture that college paints us. So I want to dive into your mindset shift the next time you went around to college now at Chapman, targeted on this real estate thing. Do you think it was more of your mindset shift that led to a better outcome this time, the
Yeah.
education, and run us through that year?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I think it was a combination of a lot of things. I came in with previous experience, and so I was a little bit more of the older crowd, even at my grad school program at Chapman, because I came in with like previous work experience. I didn't go multiple of my peers in my cohort, they went straight from undergrad to then into grad school at Chapman, which I think is a great route. Yet for me, I also too coupled real life experience within coming into grad school. And so that was a special time. So now I'm in a totally different space. Now I'm like, no, I chose to be here. I have I found this program. I'm all in. Very invested in it because this is it for me. It's not just I'm coming from undergrad into this and then I can figure out what I want to do now. No, I had real life of experience of like I already went through undergrad, got experience, hit a couple different walls, figured out some things were thing, weren't thing, and now boom, I'm here in grad school focused on real estate purely. That was life-giving to me, honestly. I love what we were doing. We got a phenomenal program. I think Chapman is one of the best schools in all of Southern California. And we, in our master's degree program, it's taught by real estate practitioners. So, well, I mean, we got, vice president, vice chairman, I believe, at CBRE, who's heavily in our program. We have senior level principal and partner at LBA, which is one of the huge, real estate and industrial and kind of multi-use companies down in Southern California as well, and across the West Coast. We had mayors, we had people who worked for Disney. I mean, who all were there really actively in our program. And so when we went ahead and stacked up against other programs that are out there, we come out and really represent well and being on top because we had some of the most amount of experience really giving into and pouring into us while we were there. Chapman was a place and platform where I was able to then meet, one of my next bosses who I'm still very close with, and a good guy, there with a group called Waterford Property Company out in Orange County as well. And that was through Chapman. He came, he was a guest speaker in one of our classes, and I think I made somewhat of an impression on him. Next thing you know, landed an interview with him, and it worked for them all of my time at Chapman, what I'm saying, during my grad school program. And that kind of then that grounding place of both going to grad school in the evening and getting real world experience too with a real estate company during the day helped propel me to then go ahead and once towards the end of my schooling time, I then was able to land a role as a sole asset manager for another company that was coming up in the Los Angeles area. So good time, man, and I loved it because I had experience already and then a passion for what I wanted to do, which was fully focused in on real estate.
Common theme I'm noticing so far about your story is kind of the environment you're in. And what I mean is, I think what was different about this college experience for you than your first one is that you're really involved with football. And I'm sure the whole football team was really involved with football as well. And it's very hard to break away from that pack and even just break away from the Uber and DoorDash pack to get a job at Target and then to go into real estate. Do you think that environment of, hearing from all the people that you just mentioned is what helped propel you to have a much better experience at Chapman?
Absolutely. I mean, and also too, just the focus. Just as much as it is environment and pack and people that you're with, the focus that I was able to have to say, no, this is really what I want to lock in on, and this is what I want to be focused on was truly impactful. And for me, the differentiator between Chapman and other programs is that Chapman is a purely, 10 class program that you can do over one, and now they're giving it 2 years now. But I literally did in 1 year. So I'm a full-time student, at that point. I'm taking 3 or 4 classes in the fall, one in the winter, there's 3 or 4 in the spring, and then 1 also in the summer. So, like, I am going through a full focused crash course, not even crash course, a full focus kinda deep dive in all of these different subjects that then over time, month after month, you just get that much more experience. You get that much more confident. You get that much more dialed in. Now you know a little bit more about this company. Now you know a little bit more about that company. Now you can speak the language that much more. And in the commercial real estate space, it's really kind of one or two things. Either you put your time in and you serve as an analyst, and it's probably still, but you put your time in, you serve as an analyst, right out of undergrad for a long time and kind of grow your jargon that way. Or you go to master, you get your master's degree, and then you can kind of say, hey, look, I now have learned this space, what I'm saying, from a higher education standpoint, and then can take that kind of experience and knowledge there into the space and be that much more strong versus even some of your other peers who are coming out and don't have some of the same level of experiences you do. So when I was then able to go and go on to work for the Waterford while I was in school, and then Langley Park Capital while I was out of school, I had experience that nobody could take away from me from my time in grad school, and then coupled with all of the different, intricate practitioners who were able to come in and speak to us and learn, and give us all kind of insights. So it was just a really good time. I think that the focus is what was super impactful during that time, just as much as it was the environment.
After you finished up Chapman, you're now working at this new real estate firm. What did they do, and what were you doing at the company?
So I worked for a company called Langley Park Capital, in which we were a newer, I think maybe 3 or 4 year old real estate firm with about a focus on impact investing. And so, impact investing is more so an aspect of the business sector in the commercial real estate space where you're focused in on naturally making an impact in a community through uplifting that community while also to delivering quality, results and returns for your investors. And so, for us, we focused in on more of your black and brown communities throughout the Los Angeles, Southern California area, as well as the Washington, D.C. area. And then, of course, looking for other opportunities amongst other states and areas, throughout the country. But our whole focus was to uplift communities that may have been, previously overlooked or undervalued and come in, add a lot of value to them, kind of multi-family apartment buildings that we would then go in and do value add, function to it, give different other ancillary programs and things that can help, be a value add and create real sticky tenants that help then drive our NOI even higher. And then from there grow and evaluation. My whole sole for focus and role there at the company was I was our asset manager, in which I basically was managing property managers, underwriting our portfolio, overseeing different capital expenditure projects, running through all of our different financial performances, rent rolls, vacancy, occupancy, all of the different stuff, but yeah, it was very behind the desk, focused and having to be, behind the scenes a little bit in a space where for me, I learned over time that my highest and best use for just me is being out with people, business development, in front of, face to face with people, creating business opportunities that flow to our company through my ability to be relational and extroverted and connect with other people that way. And so that's kind of the opportunity that I saw and really kind of wanted to present to my boss and say, "Hey, here's what I'm thinking. Here's where I'm at. Here's where I'm kind of, visualizing over some time now that my highest and best use and value for me is this, which is a little bit different than the role that I was in at that point in time. So that's a little bit of the focus, I guess, to answer your question of like what we did as a company and then what I was responsible for there.
A lot of the audience, Bryce, I'm sure shares what you are feeling when you're either at your job, you're in a college club, or wherever you're at in life, and you want some change. And it's really hard to make that change. And I think this change you wanted is especially interesting to me because when especially it's something like impact investing, you don't get the credit unless you talk about it. And I know that sounds crazy and for every person that's like, "Oh, you're talking too much about it. You're promoting yourself. You're being too narcissistic." There are also people that are like, it's awesome how much of a positive impact you're having on these communities. So, is this when your social media journey kind of started after this impact investing? You knew that you wanted to be more client facing, meaning talking to more people, talking to the residents, and helping get these deals done?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my let me back up a little bit. And social media for me today is heavily LinkedIn focused. I'm a LinkedIn guy. That's kind of where I really grew, or kind of a national presence, I would say, kind of helped, really grow, the platform that I have. So I started off back in undergrad having a class in which a marketing class or something along the line in which we needed to make a LinkedIn and before the semester was over, have 500 connections in it, with people. And so that was great. But that was back in undergrad, and I kind of put my LinkedIn relatively on the shelf for a couple years until I ended up going back to grad school. And when I went back to grad school, that's when something dawned on me to incorporate that LinkedIn presence again. I remember the very first day that I had my very first day of classes at grad school. I put out a picture, say, "Hey, here goes my first day." Going to Chapman. Super excited about what I'm going to be learning. I even before that, put out the fact that, hey, look, I was going to be going to Chapman and getting my master's degree there. So it was a special time in which, for me, I started something dawned on me perfectly to then go back in and start to utilize LinkedIn as a place to share my experience and what I was doing. And so I then started to just post, some of the different events that we would have through Chapman and the different networking events that I would go to and some of the things that we were learning and all of the different stuff. And over that course of that year that I was at Chapman, I kind of became Southern California's master's degree kid, kind of in a grand scheme of things. And so that was a big way in which I was able to reach out to different people and make a lot of connections and connect with people and start to really kind of grow my platform that way. And then it propelled even further while I was there, what I'm saying, at Langdon Park Capital, at my, the real estate firm where I was an asset manager there. And so all of the different experience, I just start keeping it rolling. And that became a platform for me where people connected with me more consistently and got to know me and got to say, "Hey, I know that kid and I know you." Oh, so then when I walk in the rooms now, they're like, they already, "Hey, I know you," or "I saw you on LinkedIn," or "Hey, congratulations on that." So that was a space that I learned there's a lot of social equity that can come from utilizing a platform like LinkedIn, and it is definitely still the same to today.
I love that your undergrad professor made you have 500 undergrad connections and a LinkedIn account. I wonder, why do you think your professor was pushing LinkedIn, and what's kept you on LinkedIn? Because I'm sure we've all seen a lot of the flashy real estate agents posting videos on Instagram or even owning Manhattan, the Netflix show. So, what attracted you to LinkedIn?
Absolutely. So going back, undergrad professor in a personal, I think it was a personal marketing class. I don't even remember what it was, but some kind of marketing class. And I'm like, boom, yes, that was great. I was able to do my thing there and get all the connections that I needed and wanted. But I would say when you start to see the success of it, that's the place that you lean into. That people say, hey, you got the 80-20 rule or, all the different things that you lean into doing. 80% of your success coming from 20% of the things that you do. And so for me, when I became, saying a LinkedIn guy, I was creating a lot of traction there and a lot of knowledge about who I was and a lot of, growth in my touch on different people across Southern California and other places. It became a no-brainer that I was going to keep leaning into that. And that's the space where I carved out, what I'm saying, credibility and carved out reputation and carved out knowledge about who I was. So much so to when it came down to it, like there was no other platform that I was really using for a long time because there's a lot of equity that's there in LinkedIn because you're coming across a platform where it's very, professional driven, relationships driven. And then you get people who are there who are typically, representing themselves well, also, and want to create a great presence for themselves. And so now in my real estate space, kind of to your point of like, yeah, there's a place and platform to kind of go and market to yourself on Instagram, but that is a totally different crowd than LinkedIn is. And personally, for me, my crowd, I would like in the space that I'm in. I do business here, and now as a real estate agent in the North Atlanta area, in some of the best suburbs here in Atlanta, cities like Swanee, Johns Creek, Alpharetta, Milton, Buford, Sandy Springs, Buckhead. That North Atlanta space, you're going to come across business owners, high end executives, financial advisors, people who have been doing business for a very long time, and they're frequently going to be on LinkedIn. And that is the place that I want to, capture my audience. My audience is more so in that 35 to 60 range in which they're buying their second house, they're buying their forever house, they're buying their final home, they're right sizing, they're downsizing, they're buying the home on the golf course, they're buying the vacation home. That's the group of people that I want to really attract myself to because typically those are also some of your higher price points here in the North Atlanta area, as well as I know how to talk the talk and walk the walk of a high level, real estate professional. So for me, I could be able to interact with those people who have bought homes before and who are more experienced on a much easier basis.
Bryce, you are preaching to the choir here. Instagram is great entertainment, but that person that's 50 years old and is about to buy their second home, they're probably not scrolling reels. They're spending time on LinkedIn. That's what all of our previous guests have said. When we have someone like Sarah Rav, who's got over 1 million followers on Instagram, she gets all of her clients from LinkedIn,
Wow.
not Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so inspirational to hear that you stuck with it too, because I can only imagine how hard it's been at every one of these career points for you that you can just easily say, you know what, I'm just going to stop posting on LinkedIn. Because after you graduate from Chapman, you're not posting about Chapman, you're not posting about something else. And you're innovating with your own content. Now that you've been posting for a while, I'm curious to hear your process from idea all the way to post on LinkedIn.
My LinkedIn post is a daily thing. I aim to post every day on LinkedIn. I'm probably most consistently posting 5 to 6 times a week. With 1 or 2 days in which hey, maybe the morning got away from me or I didn't plan it the night before. And hey, it's okay. I'll come back the next day. I'm posting pretty much every day on LinkedIn. And that for me is a space where why? Because it is a consistent, proven track for business for me as well, and credibility and knowledge and space to to continue to keep separating myself and making sure that I'm known in the space. From idea to execution and post, it really depends, man. I think typically an idea, I'm a big pictures guy. So I post a lot of pictures on LinkedIn. Every now and then I have some more times, posting some videos or some shorts and that kind of thing too. But I'm a big pictures guy on LinkedIn. So it kind of also just relatively starts for me, grabbing a picture. And there's so much of a story in a picture And in grand scheme of a day, you take, pictures of all kind of different things and can be able to tell a lot of different stories from them. So for me, that's kind of my starting point place is like it goes from living real life experience, capturing the moment, thinking through, okay, how could I even relatively give this some kind of story? And then executing on it being there and going for it. I just posted a picture yesterday about my grandmother. My grandmother is a huge pillar and backbone in my life. She lives in a senior community in which every now and then they highlight people and they can kind of show people, hey, what do you care about the most and love? My grandma's a big lady on pictures as well. And so she's has a ton of pictures and that kind of things in her house of us and my family and all kind of stuff. She brought them down to the lobby where she was able to showcase it to all of her different, neighbors in her community and showcase and highlight pictures of myself and all my accomplishments and my cousin who was there and her father and different stories of our family life and all kind of stuff. And I kind of just posted about my grandmother and just say, hey, look, I love my grandmother. My grandmother's 92 and still walking, still out and about, still volunteering, still doing it. She's such an inspiration. And threw it back to the group of like, hey, what's the story about your grandmother? You know what I'm saying? That people can share. I take a lifestyle approach on LinkedIn, versus like, hey, win, win, win. I just got this win. I just closed this deal. I just did this. I just do that. I incorporate that too, but I'm much more of a lifestyle centered guy centered around content on family and real life experience and golf, and then incorporating in some of the real estate stuff there too. So that's a little bit of my kind of focal point and process when I think about the way that I strategize on LinkedIn.
Bryce, your post about your grandmother was so wholesome, and it was awesome seeing that. And one of the reasons we wanted to have you on the show was because you're really providing a different perspective to selling real estate in general and also on LinkedIn because most people aren't posting on LinkedIn when they're selling real estate and especially not like you. So I'm curious how it works to sell real estate because real estate is like B2B software where in most cases you're not just Apple Pay seeing a link from your profile, just Apple Pay clicking a house. Now, there's some cases where you can close fast and a lot of bidders, whatever. But how does that process look for you of selling real estate? And also to be clear, I want to talk about more right now when you're working at Surham, which is really just selling homes directly to that 50-year-old dad, right?
Absolutely. So to kind of go back on the LinkedIn point and how you go from LinkedIn to selling, that space that I have chosen to do when I talk about that lifestyle piece is a term that you deem as social selling. So what I'm doing is ultimately creating a great deal of social capital about myself and incorporating people into my life and seeing my wife and seeing my little baby girl and inviting them out to play golf and showcasing my grandmother. That is creating social equity, social capital with people, relational kind of focus and connection there that can then be a pivotal moment in which somebody says, I like this guy. So once you get from I like this guy, first and foremost, well, we're already connected on LinkedIn, so now you know me. Then you say, okay, cool. Now I like this guy. Then when I start to showcase and highlight some of the things that I'm doing on the real estate front, now I can trust this guy. Now then it creates the opportunity in which once I've got those three things done and completed, then the opportunity for business actually comes about and selling you on the real estate. So, and amongst the deals that I've done this up until this point here in Georgia, I would say over 60% of them have come and been originated from LinkedIn. And so now in that space, there is no going back for me. There is, hey, LinkedIn is a place of bread and butter for me. It's a place of consistency. It's a place of business development. When you go and you look back at your P&L of any business and say, hey, we got 60% of our business from this kind of, focal point or from this investment strategy or from this capital expenditure or from this marketing strategy, you lean into that. And so that's what I'm now doing. And so more than anything, people buy real estate. Not, I mean, like that's the focal point. And so once you buy into me as the person and now we're connected, it's easy to help you with your real estate transaction. The value that I create on the real estate front is more on, negotiation, other information, intel, actual, strategy when it comes to all of that other stuff of the actual real estate jargon. Like that's second fiddle. You actually, more than anything, need to know how to connect with people. That's the soul. If you don't hear anything else from me and any other real estate agents or people who are considering and thinking about getting into real estate, the number one job that you have in this business is to not necessarily know real estate. It is not to necessarily go see 100 million homes or whatever the case may be. It is to interact and connect with people and to consistently every single day have somebody get to know you, get to like you, and get to trust you each and every little just that much more. And if you could do that, then you can really have a successful, real estate career. Ryan Serhant himself said his goal every single day is to meet and interact with at least 5 to 10 new people every day. And he did a more recently in our weekly team meeting. He connected. He just broke down the numbers. If you could meet and 6 people every single day, you compound that after, 5 days a week, so on and so forth. It's ultimately just a numbers game. And you could keep to continue to develop those relationships and grab them and get to know them and like them and trust them that much more. They will do the same thing for you. And that's ultimately how you can then start to think about your closing relationship with those people that you have. And so it's it's um it's a people game in this business. And I think that the people are everything, and the way that you make people feel when you're talking about now helping them handle one of the biggest decisions and moves that they make in their entire life, you create a lot of great capital and equity with them.
Bryce, I know I've said this a million times, but to me, this way of meeting people and forcing yourself to meet new people is kind of like, I think, a common theme of your entire story, because you're forcing yourself out of one job, even if the Uber and DoorDash is easier, but you're doing something else because you know it's going to be better for you. And in this case, you know it's going to be better for you and also the client that you're serving. I want to dive deeper into this relationship part of LinkedIn because most of the people that see your LinkedIn content aren't going to like or comment it. Like the 50-year-old dad who is going to buy a second home might not comment on your post, "Hey, I want to buy a new post. Can you help me out?" Now, maybe he will. You have to correct me, but like I doubt that's happening. So I'm curious how you think about nurturing those relationships on LinkedIn from a strategy perspective, whether it's sending connection requests to people who viewed your profile, sending DMs to people who liked your content. Maybe a lot of your clients like your content. Run us through that part, more tactical of the selling process.
I could be even better on LinkedIn. I could maximize it that much more. I can dive into it all of the more. I am generous with my connect button. I connect with a lot of people and grow in that space. I then find those hot point moments in which there is a deeper connection and correlation, and commonality, I would say, to some people and send them a message to say, "Hey, saw that this was, a commonality that we had. Great to connect with you," so on and so forth. I do definitely I aim to respond to all of my comments. That's a goal of mine as well. And then I am intentional about the different people and industries that I want to connect with people on, connect with them intentionally, be a little bit more, engaged with some of their posts, following up in that DM space because now once we've interacted in DMs in the, DMs of LinkedIn, now my post will start to show up on their platform that much more. And then consistently create leverage with the people in which I've created great relationships with on LinkedIn already. Why? Because people who I've created great relationships with already on LinkedIn and we're back and forth in each other's comments and that kind of thing. The more that I show up on their stuff, the more that they show up on mine. The algorithm consistently pushes each other, pushes our posts and and all kind of different stuff to one another and in our different spheres. So I just utilize the platform. I utilize the algorithm to a great degree and make it work. Um, and people oftentimes, I mean, nowadays I'll walk into a room, hey man, I saw you on LinkedIn, or hey, I recognize you from LinkedIn. Hey, I saw you, you know what I'm saying? Yo, you're the LinkedIn guy, or you're LinkedIn famous. And I'm like, I'm hey, thank you, man. I'm glad that the algorithm is working the way it's supposed to, or that, I'm doing something right to make it go. One of my buddies is like, dude, every single time I click into LinkedIn, you're at the top of my you're at the top of my, what I'm saying, my fear. It's like, yo, and that's what I want to do. I want to continue to keep throwing that space so that when people think of me, when people I show them what I'm doing, they think, boom, they think of Bryce, they think of, hey man, I like this guy. Boom, I'm thinking about real estate. And now they can then it doesn't have to be just they want to buy a home. Hey, connect me with somebody else that you had. Make a referral, make a connection. I really want to be an awesome referral partner with people this year. I want to give awesome referral gifts to people this year. And that's nationwide. For you're up in Boston. If you make a connection to somebody that, what I'm saying, hey, you got a friend, you got a buddy, you got a family member who needs to buy a home or looking to sell a home, and you're like, hey, we don't know a real estate agent or whatever the case may be, contact me. Allow me to make that connection to the real estate agent in that area for you. And now I can be able to get a referral fee from that. And then I can push it back out to you. And now we create a great synergy of connection and helpfulness to each other. So, and then Sirhan just launched in Massachusetts as well in Boston. So there's so much there for me to be able to add value to people, not even just in a metro Atlanta real estate, but across real estate nationwide, worldwide, where I can be a connector and I can be your guy on all things real estate. That thing can be, a helpful point to me and to my home as well. So that's kind of my, my thought process of, the way that I attract and connect in LinkedIn is being intentional in a lot of different spaces that allow me to be the guy in which can make, some valuable help. And I have had those people who just straight up contacted me like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Boom. And now we're closing and doing things. So that's been helpful too.
Bryce, you hit on a common theme that almost every other guest has mentioned. And that's that there's no real hack to LinkedIn. You can't just 20 DM your way to get the success that you have. You get it by being human. You get it by posting authentic content, connecting with people that you want to talk to, and really building a community, not just a one-way relationship with your audience. I want to hit on next because you've gained a very impressive LinkedIn following. And a lot of creators, as soon as they get an ounce of following, you're like, how do I monetize? How do I monetize? How do I monetize? And I know real estate's your job, so that's how you're monetizing. But I mean, more like creators will think, oh, I need to launch a course. I need to be training other creators. I need to do office hours with my community and so many other things. And I'm curious if you've thought about it or other, monetization opportunities from LinkedIn and what keeps you focused on LinkedIn, because I think it's personally really impressive that you've really just stuck to selling real estate and not gotten distracted by a lot of these other things.
Yeah, man, I'm a focused guy. And a lot of what I do just in life. And I'm a guy which I want to keep doing what works, and I want to keep pushing the ball down the field to being excellent at something. And so for me, more than trying to launch out a course or trying to do this or trying to do that, in the midst of at the same time in my real life experience, being a new dad, quite frankly, being in a new phase of my marriage, being in a new journey, what I'm saying, outside of, serving my community and thinking through the ways in which like I can help, other people in that space in real life. I'm not here to rush to the new shiny thing or to launch out with a new course or to try to teach people. I will absolutely, if somebody jumps into my DMs, I frequently, which is happens, is like, hey, Would love to connect with you. Would love to see, how you grew your platform on LinkedIn and this, that, and the other. I'll do that all day long, but I'm not necessarily trying to go and monetize how to do LinkedIn right now. My monetization of LinkedIn, like you said early on, is let's do real estate. Let's talk about real estate. Let's talk about you, who you know, somebody else that you know, somebody that you could connect me with that is interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate, whether it be here in Metro Atlanta or nationwide. Like that's my focus and monetization that I really, really want to continue to keep driving and pushing and reminding my community to like, hey, this is what I'm focused on. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to close in on a deal every single month. I'm trying to do 2 deals, 3 deals, 4 deals every single month. That's my focus and monetization when it comes down to LinkedIn. If you want to help me in any way, shape, or form, or this little beautiful little 4-month-old girl that I got, that's the way that you can help me in my life for sure.
That's so clear and so impressive that you've stuck with that because in especially a place like LinkedIn where you don't know the algorithm could change tomorrow and our post could get practically 0 impressions or there's so many unknowns and it's very tempting to do this. And the fact that you've stuck with it, I think is very impressive. And I think your community knows that as well. I want to dive more into LinkedIn real estate more broadly. Are some of your other colleagues at Serhant now posting on LinkedIn after they've seen what you're done? And tell us a little bit more about LinkedIn real estate in general, the landscape.
So LinkedIn, honestly, this is where we're kind of now get into the different aspects of real estate. So LinkedIn is primarily a commercial real estate platform. That is typically where you find a lot of commercial real estate professionals at the corporate level. Think CBRE, JLL, owners of different, commercial real estate companies, investment, I'm saying the investment side of things, capital markets, all of that stuff is typically a lot more of a commercial real estate space. Residential real estate typically is a lot more Instagram, TikTok, other, other forms of fashion of that thing too. For me, I have both ends of those two different spaces. I came originally from the commercial real estate industry, and that's what helped continue to keep pushing and leading my LinkedIn space. Now I'm on your residential side of real estate, but also now the guy consistently pushing out on LinkedIn as well. Now I'm able to interact and tie those two spaces together. I love commercial real estate professionals, even as my potential clients on the real estate, on the residential real estate side. Number one, because we speak and talk the same language. I literally come from their same world. I've walked in some of their same shoes. I literally interacted with them on a regular basis already. And I still dive deeply into those commercial real estate communities and spaces. Secondly, though, too, now when I walk into a commercial real estate room or space, I am no longer their competition, but in actuality, all of them are potentially my clients. So I love commercial real estate professionals because now I'm no longer the guy who is also the asset manager at this company, also investing in multifamily real estate, also investing in this area. And actually, I am now, hey, I'm the guy in which you need a home. Every single person in this building typically is going to own or have a home that they want to now have, buy, sell, invest in, so on and so forth. That's where I come into play and being that guy there. So for me, I am now in a space where um it is not, I don't run across too many. I naturally have because I'm more interactive with connecting with different realtors who are in different areas and states so that I could consistently potentially be on their radar as a referral partner to them. But I am the guy in which I'm posting, I don't know that many more residential real estate agents who are posting on LinkedIn than I do. But that's off of the basis of what I previously was doing. So that's a little bit of my kind of focal point. I have interacted with a number of my different, other Serhant, Serhant, realtors and that kind of thing, in which they're definitely doing some cool stuff on there too. Um, but I just have come at it from a little bit of a different, perspective and space. And I think that, LinkedIn is growing in the residential real estate side versus it was already well established in the commercial real estate sector.
That point you made about the commercial real estate agents that used to compete with now being potential clients, because everyone needs to buy a home and you're no longer competing with them, I think that is an awesome story. I love that. Before we close out this episode, I want to give the audience some more tactical tips about real estate because most of the audience probably has not bought a home yet and might not for the next 5 to 10 years. There might be clients of yours down the line, Bryce. So I'm curious just generally because I don't even know what questions to ask. So maybe give us a little bit of a crash course
Yeah.
about buying a home.
Got it. That's a good question. Okay. Let's start off with I'll paint an avatar of a person and then we can kind of go from there. Let's say it's a first time home buyer who's right now, which is crazy, the average age for a first time home buyer in the United States is 40 years old, which is 12 years more than what it was, I believe, in the 1980s, which is wild. But fast forward to that, let's just call it a 30-year-old who works a great job, has been working in corporate for the last few years, is now at a stage and point in which maybe they're getting married and now they want to buy a home. Awesome. Love that. First and foremost, begin, I would say, to interact and find me, Bryce, contact me on on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, Bryce, I'm thinking about buying a home. Can you help, what I'm saying? Can you help me think through, what are next steps?" We would jump on an intro, phone call. I would love to be able to hear your story. What's important to you? Where do you live? Where do you want to live? Where do what do you do on a regular basis? What's important, what is important as far as, where you want, do you want kids? Do you want, community experiences? Do you want to be close to the bar? Do you want to be close to the nightlife? All of those different things I want to gather in on your story and hear what's important to you. Where do you spend most of your time? Where do you want, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live that will help your real estate investment or your purchase of your home be a value add to your life? So that's the most important. That's first and foremost for me in our intro call is getting to understand your life and how your real estate can be valuable to you there. Secondly, I want to start to think about, okay, cool. How long have you been at your job? What kind of money are you, not necessarily what kind of money are you making, but more so, can you have an understanding and the idea of what kind of home it is that you want? What kind of relative price point do you think that you could be able to afford? That may or may not change off of my next step, but I kind of want you to be thinking through that there so that for me and you, we can partner on through from the first aspect of what kind of lifestyle that you want to live and relatively the kind of home that you want to then being able to hear what's your rough idea on what you think that your budget is. And then my third step to that is to then be able to go ahead and connect you with a mortgage lender or a lender in this space who could be able to dial you in and say, "Hey, here's what you have as far as you're pre-approved for this price point of a home." Once we have those three kind of, buckets, fulfilled in your home buying process, and we have that pre-approval letter in hand, now we can actually be able to go forth and consider and think about where is it that we're looking, what is it that we're now trying to accomplish, and what is it that are our next steps in the midst of that process of now connect you with a mortgage lender. Hey, and you're ready to actively look for your home and you're ready to say, "Hey, look, you got all your ducks in a row to be able to go ahead and buy." We will then orchestrate, making sure that we have an agreement as to, "Hey, here's how I'm representing you. Here's how I'm working in your best interest as a fiduciary, advisor to you and to your space and doing the best thing for you." And then from there, we go ahead and we actively find you a home. And so now in the midst of that process, I will spend my time on and probably to you looking for different homes. You'll be looking for homes on Zillow. I'll be looking for all of the things that I have on access to the MLS and be able to find you dialed in as to what is it some of the things that we talked about that you're most passionate about, the lifestyle that you want to live and how you want to go about that. We'll then go see homes. We'll then go say, "Hey, look, I got yay, nay, may. Okay, hey, I want to push it out to next week again. I didn't see anything that we liked. Okay, cool. We run a new set of homes that we can go see. Boom, we go see homes. Hey, I love this one. We go home. We start talking about, hey, what would our offer be?" That's where my experience and helpfulness and knowledge comes in to then be able to give you insight of, "Hey, here's how I think that we should go about putting in this offer. Here go some of the hotbed points that I think are important. And then we go ahead and we run at it from there, put in an offer, get an offer accepted. We move forward the next, 20 to 30 days on buying you your home. We get you in your home. I give you an awesome closing gift. We're now well connected. We're almost like family at this point in time. And then from there, you tell me, you know what I'm saying, others about how great I was to be able to help you in your and experience this time with you. And then we continue to keep rolling down a path of creating a great relationship over the next 7 to 10 years as the now, average home buyer is moving every 7 to 10 years. And so now the my focal point at that point is to create a consistent great relationship with you over the next several years to make sure that when it comes down to it and you're thinking about moving next, or you have other people who are interested in moving at that point, you then reference me as your valuable real estate partner and advisor who helps you make such a grand move.
Bryce, one of the common themes we've talked about on this show is emotion. And humans don't make rational decisions. You think when it comes down to a home, most people think, oh, it just matters price and location. Well, first of all, location, you can't really measure it and put a tangible thing on it. It's the emotion of the human being satisfied with their purchase. That's why you have like list price and discounts and all these other sorts of negotiations. And then it's like what schools and there's so many different variables. And I think that's where you provide so much comfort to your clients. Just like Matt and I used to or love to use the analogy of a fitness coach because like we all have Zillow. We know how to eat healthy, but you still need a real estate agent to buy a house and be comfortable with that decision. Same with getting in shape.
Yeah.
On that note, though, I'm curious because consumers have Zillow, we have Realtor.com, you have MLS, it sounds like. Why isn't there a combined 3-in-1 or however many real estate platforms there are when you can search all homes? Because don't Zillow and Realtor.com have like different inventories?
Yes and no. Typically, most things that run through the MLS also should be on Zillow and Realtor.com because they're essentially a MLS kind of loaded platform and space. What I typically have the ability to do differently than Zillow and Realtor.com is be able to number one, navigate it at a much higher level than what you could on Zillow and Realtor.com. And so for me, that's the vantage point and advantage that I would say that I have to a normal just consumer. But on top of that too, I can pull in data. I can run comps. I can just be a lot more nimble and expose an inefficiency that the normal consumer does not have access to. And so that's typically the space and add value. Now, granted, that does not necessarily mean that there are situations and experiences in which people find the home that they want on Zillow and send it to me and say, "Hey, look, this is what I want." Cool, great. Now here's where my my highest value add is not finding you your home. There's I believe it's over, I don't know the exact percentage, but there's a high percentage of people in which find their home on Zillow because they're naturally scrubbing Zillow even more than their real estate agent. Our value as real estate agents, though, is to have a fiduciary what I'm saying, obligation to represent you at a high level of negotiation experience and knowledge that don't necessarily have when you're walking into a real estate transaction. Some people I've heard and say, "Hey, look, why would I pay you if I found you the home?" Well, finding the home is easy. Like that's the easy part. That's not my highest and best use of value. My highest value is getting you the absolute best price under the right terms, under the right amount of, experience, negotiating all the paperwork, putting all the paperwork together, navigating all of the different parties of what we're doing, inspection, home, home report, all of the stuff that you don't see. Like the finding a home is that's easy work. Like it's more so the actual aspect of getting us to the closing and changing hands accordingly and being the liaison and middleman between myself and the other party involved. If you think that you're going to buy or sell, quite frankly, a home, and there's somebody else on the other side of this thing who is a licensed practitioner at this thing, you are essentially walking into a gunfight with a knife. Like, you're no longer trying to really, you're not getting the most amount of value that you can of doing this thing at a realm or space in which you're able to compete for whatever rack of words at a even playing field. And one thing that I want to make sure that people know too is oftentimes, when it comes down to representing you on the buyer side, oftentimes, not standard or this or that, but oftentimes, and what is, I would say, typical in our space is that as a buyer's representation of, what I'm saying, that of representing you as a buyer, as an agent for myself, it does not cost you typically any money. Typically my fee and what is coming out of it is typically from the sale of the home from the other side of things. Now, granted, there are experiences and places in which you can, compensate, your agent for the work that they have done. If the other side of the party is not offering any kind of compensation to you as the buyer's agent, that typically is a space where we understand, hey, this is typically what I am working for, the compensation that I'm looking for. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't cost you much typically to have somebody who could be a representation and a representative for you and help make you whole on some of the biggest move that you can make in your life.
Bryce, you articulated that so well. You can't just Apple Pay a house.
It's just not how that goes, man. It's not how that goes.
Before we wrap, is there anything else you want to leave the audience with, whether real estate, LinkedIn, your story related?
First and foremost, I'm thankful that I was able to have this experience with you, Daniel. I wish that Matt was able to join us. We'll jump back on again. I would love to, and have Matt join us next time. I'm thankful for what I'm doing. I'm a believer in Jesus and love the Lord and love my family. And have a loving little baby girl that is coming up. And want to help people in real estate. And that's my story. That's who I am, wholeheartedly. I want to be able to add value in a number of different ways to people. So please do connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me that you were able to watch or see this story that we were able to share and have today. And then even more forth going from there, let me figure out a way in which I can help you in any way, shape, or form. And anybody that when it comes down to the real estate space across any realm or region that you're in here in the United States, across the country, whatever it is, outside of the country, whatever it may be, I want to be a valuable resource to you, and be able to add value in a number of different ways.
Bryce, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely, man. This was great. This was a pleasure. Thanks so much again, Daniel.
Daniel from the editing booth. I wanted to leave you with one key takeaway at the end of this episode, and that's that the use case of LinkedIn is clearly expanding. For a lot of the audience, you know that TikTok used to start as this niche platform where it was just middle schoolers lip syncing to songs. And now it's this business empire. The same thing is happening with LinkedIn. It used to be this was job and resume site, and now Bryce is moving millions of dollars in real estate on there. I was proof over the summer that you could build a travel website that got over 10,000 users just from posting on LinkedIn. And now Matt and I are proof you can build a podcast just by posting on LinkedIn. The use case of LinkedIn is clearly expanding, and there's never been a better time to post on this platform. Thank you for watching this episode.